The two procurement nerds are back, and we are recording on Wednesday, June 4th. I am in Portland, Oregon for a big bachelorette trip weekend. So, kind of excited to get out and about. I hope the weather's not too cold. It's a little chilly and overcast here, and I think it's supposed to rain on Saturday. So we packed our sweaters and jackets. We're a weather prepared bunch of ladies.
I'm in Vegas today, and it's going to be 104. So I'm seeing you in your little fleece there, and
I think we're like a 35, 40 degree difference today.
Oh my God.
All right. So we've got an interesting topic queued up, and this is something I don't have a lot of experience with, given my career path has been very different, primarily on the go-to-market side. And I've worked at startups or scale-ups and limited budget, limited resources, often fully remote. But Dr. E, this is something that I feel like you have some pretty incredible stories and examples to share. So looking forward to diving in. So topic today is team building events gone wrong. So instead of talking about all the positive and the good, we're going to flip the switch a little bit and talk about some of the craziness and challenges and I think you even had some colleagues that have shared some stories as well that sparked this topic.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I hate team building events. Just hands down. Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't sense any camaraderie from these things. And I know I'm cranky and cynical and old, but as I've gone, I have so many examples of failed team building events that we're going to get into today. I just want to preface that. And by the way, team building events and water do not mix. Just stay away from the water, for goodness sake.
This sounds scary already.
Well, actually, let's just start there. So first of all, at the best case, and a lot of the events are sort of boat tours. So best case scenario is you do a boat tour and you're a captive audience for 2 or 3 hours. And we talked about this when I nearly knocked the pregnant lady into the
I
canal
do
last
remember
year.
this. There was almost a disaster.
Yeah, exactly. But you smell diesel engine the whole time, or engines the whole time, and just like it's loud, and you're a captive audience. So no more boats. Enough of the boats, or at least the boat trips, whether it's around the bay, the delta, the ocean. No boats. So that's number one. Number two, we did a team event it was a leadership retreat in outside of Norfolk in Virginia. And so
where is Norfolk? You said Virginia?
Yeah, in Virginia, okay. On the Chesapeake and Chesapeake Bay. And we were broken up into teams of 3 or 4, given no training, and put with somebody that is a sailor. And we all got in these sailboat dinghy things. And I'm sure I'm offending all the people that sail. But essentially, we had to figure out how to sail, and with this instructor. And there was 3 of us on the boat. Or three my boat, there was 3 of us. And so not only do we have to figure our way around on how to sail, then they wanted us to race. It sends my heart palpitating. And my boat was an absolute disaster. I mean, 2 of us had never been on a sailboat like that before, and the other guy had sort of done a minimal amount, and the instructor was horrible.
Yikes.
You're supposed to sail around all these things and all these markers. We couldn't even go in a straight line, and the guy didn't. Our guy, or our sort of trainer, didn't even speak English, and so so essentially what happened is we crashed into another boat, which was just awful. Like, and that
And
point, so
stranded. How do you even get off?
oh, you would have to swim, but we were able to like say, so we sailed back to the shore, and and, and the three of us, I'll never forget Jennifer Garlitz, Enrico Rizone, and myself. We looked shell shocked, and one of our colleagues. So, and of course, we're just sitting there. We go back to the shore, like we're sitting at the loser table, and meanwhile, all of our other colleagues are out racing and going around all the things, and it's the wide open bay, so it's not like it's constrained anyway. So the others come back, and I'll know Mark Klaus, who is a good friend. He walks up, he looks at us, and goes, "What happened? You guys look just awful." And he just came up and gave each of us a hug. I'll never forget.
So what was the original intent? Like whoever coordinated this, what were they hoping to accomplish? That you're going to network and build these incredible relationships while doing this exercise?
We're going to work together to be able to collaborate better. And I will say that the objective of the weekend, and we had many of these retreats over the years, I still have, like Enrico, I have a close relationship with to this day. But not because of the stupid boat, but because we spent time together and we developed relationships cross geographic. But that thing was horrible. That was just horrible. I don't even know if I have.
So did you give feedback to the coordinator on no boats, no water?
It was obvious because the organizers of the event, from Carney, the organizers, and our boss, who sort of like put this up, like wanted this to happen. They came back and it was pretty obvious. I mean, because of course we had crunched one of our, like the boat that we had. These were fiberglass, expensive boats, and it made an awful crunching sound. That was our colleagues in another boat that we crunched. So it was awful. I
feel like we need to get a photo, or I wish we had a video clip to include with the.
I'll look and so there's no video.
Whatever we call it, the actual train wreck that happened.
Yeah, there was no. I think there's a photo. I'll find a photo just to give context. But no, there was no video. This is slightly before ubiquitous videos on everybody's phones. Yeah, that's that, and that's not even my worst story, by the way. That's just one that was just shell shocking to me.
That's the precursor prep for as we get through your list.
Yeah. And so then there was canoeing down rapids and
like whitewater rafting.
Yeah, whitewater rafting in Montana, and so pardon my language, but if you have to wear crash helmets, count me the out. I'm not doing this.
So you were like a level, aren't they 1 through 5? 5 is the most extreme. So you were like a 3 or 4 if you're wearing a helmet.
Well, as it turns out, because I had some rapids rafting issues when I was a kid where I almost drowned. So I was going back and forth with my boss about like, this is way too stressful and anxiety producing. Like, I can't do this. And he was like, all right, fine. You can just sit on the banks and whatever. So we got to kind of get to that. However, about like 4 days before the event, or before we had the session, before we all flew to Montana, I got bit by a dog right on my right close to my vein. So
on the same trip,
before the trip, so I ended up not going on the trip. But in looking at the pictures, everybody's wearing helmets, and it's like, if I would have seen that, like I would have, if I hadn't have gotten bit by a dog, and like there you go, thank God for getting bit by a dog. But I seen everybody putting helmets on. No, not doing that. Like, who does that for a work event? If you opt in and that's your thing, great. But for a work event, no.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry, I'm getting really worked up here.
That's pretty intense. I mean, not
Right?
everyone is I don't know. I would not describe myself as an athletic person, and I don't know that I would even have the athletic capabilities to do extreme rafting.
No, and I mean, I I don't know what we were thinking. Not me, because it wasn't me, but like, seriously, like, what are we doing here?
So boats, so sailboats, no. Rafting, canoes, no.
Oh, well, we haven't gotten to canoes yet. So rafting, no. Boat trips, no. Sailboats, no. And now canoeing. Let me tell you my canoeing trip.
Gosh, you and your boat train wrecks here. This is like, you got to just avoid at all cost.
Right. And well, Sean from Convergence, he wanted, like he asked me to do a thing at DPW this week. And that was before I committed, before he had chosen, his team had chosen boats, and before I knew I wasn't going this week. But he ended up, that team scheduled a boat trip around, the harbor there. And it's just like, there's no way. But okay. So then this one was all on me. So this was my team. There was about 10 of us, I think it was.
So you coordinated this canoeing trip.
Yes. So up at the Russian River for those, that's just sort of northeast of or west of Napa, somewhere up that way.
Northern California.
Yeah, and it's gorgeous. The Russian River is amazing. And in the fall, I had gone, Denise and I had gone with our dog Liza, and we had taken, and it was like in September, I think. So we had done a canoe trip, and it was beautiful. It was just gorgeous. And it was the entire thing that you just start at one end and you just sort of lazily go down. There's, it was so calm. And there was, because with my whole rapids thing, like I would have never done anything, but it was amazing. And you just kind of pull over at a certain point and get out and have a little picnic and whatever. And then you sort of canoe down to the end, and then you get out and they drive you back. It was amazing. So it was a great time with Denise. So then the idiot that I am, I'm like, duh, let's bring my whole team and do this, which is like, okay, fine. So we do the exact same thing at the exact same place. The only difference is we did it in June. And you know what the difference between June and September is? Is that in June, you have all the winter runoff. So what was a very calm canoeing trip in September or October, whenever it was, in June was significantly more, there was more like,
so you got yourself into all the fast moving water.
Yes, it was definitely, it was fast moving. And so we didn't need helmets or anything. So we broke up into like 3 canoes. And so and you don't need guides or anything, because it's pretty much, you get in the canoe and you just kind of go, and then you end up at the end 3 miles later or wherever it is. It's all good. So we learned a very valuable lesson about why waterproof bags exist, because I put my keys and wallet in the bag, but I did not put my phone or a bunch of other things. So I was in this canoe with 2 colleagues, one of which was a older woman. She was right before retirement, and the guy, that gets us started, he, pushes the canoes out and says, good luck. He's like, and the only thing you have to do is there's a a pier, like a footing of a big bridge that goes over the river, and within like 100, 200 yards of starting, you just have to avoid the pier and or the footing of the big gigantic bridge. Well, again, in the fall, it wasn't a big deal because you just kind of float right by it.
Yeah, you're thinking easy, just go around.
Right. And so, and of course, this probably set me off too, is like the guide guy says, or, whoever brings the boats to us says, now be careful. The only thing you got to do is avoid the big concrete thing there. Otherwise, you'll end up as a member of the Russian River Swim Club. That was in my head, right? So sure enough, we get towards the thing. The water is moving fast, and whoop, we go up the side. Canoe turns over. 3 of us are under the water, under the canoe. So the canoe is tipped over on top of us. I come up for air, and the canoe is on top of me. So, and like we have the lunch
and all of our stuff is.
Oh my God! Right, exactly. So, and so I remember like thinking, oh, I've got this woman Judy. I've got to like make sure she doesn't drown, because like that's going to be like the worst thing. So I knocked the canoe off, and I just like grabbed Judy, and I remember saying, I got Judy. And then so one of the other teammates, one of the other canoes, is like, oh, I got the watermelon. I got the bag of watermelon. And like, it's just, so of course we're 2 minutes in, completely soaked. We've lost.
And you're like, peace out. You're like, we're done.
Oh no, but you can't go back because the water's going so fast. So we just have to continue on. And it's, of course, as a leader, you're like humiliated because you're the dipshit that fell over, went into the water. My phone got totally trashed. I lost everything on the phone. I think I had a digital camera too. I don't know, whatever it was.
This team building event cost you quite a lot.
Oh my God. And all I remember is, so we go, like there was some food that was in the other boats and whatever. So all I remember is we stopped at this little like island. It wasn't like an island, but anyway, and we get out onto the little beach and we just sit there and eat. And all I can just sit there and think is, I was just like, oh my God, this is awful. Oh my God, this is like,
you're like, I'm done with boats after this.
Yeah, exactly. And anyway, so yeah, that's yes. so that's, so no more boats. Like enough with the boats already. I can't.
For those listening, if you're wanting Dr. E to speak at an event or participate in an activity, boats are out. Water's not a good thing either.
Exactly. And in fact, I've been talking to somebody about working as my business agent for bookings, and I have to tell her, no boats. Yeah. Anyway, those are my most disastrous ones, but there's a whole bunch of other ones that are just like, I mean, and those are corporate sanctioned team building events. And just by the by, there's I'm going to be in traveling the next couple of weeks, but there is the group within Carnegie is doing a meetup in Boulder, and one of the activities is a scavenger hunt. And
oh yeah, those are really popular in the Bay Area. You can actually buy it as gifts for people, where they go and you get like 2 tickets or 1 ticket, and then there's like a whole, I don't know if it's an hour, couple hours, and you get yourself all around town. People like to do it for when they're going somewhere new as a way to like get acclimated.
Count me out. I'm not doing that. Like, so, well, I'll go back. So we like, there's no, I mean, even if I was going to that event, I would not be doing the scavenger hunt. I was like, no. I think I'm just done with team building events. But that notwithstanding, so the next one that I have on my list, well, scavenger hunts hard pass. The reason that I took that position was because the year before we did something called night golf, which was absolutely the dumbest thing.
Oh, is this like Top Golf?
No, well, no, I don't think so. It was on a real golf course because we were staying at we're staying at Chateau Elan, which is a winery, golf course, and event center place. Really fancy in Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. And so what it was is they had these glow in the dark balls, and you would basically play a round of golf with the golf balls as these lit up golf balls. And those
So like 9 or 18 holes?
it was probably like 4 holes or 6 holes.
So it's like
it
a mini golf game in the dark.
Yeah, but you're out there on the greens, and of course it's dark, and like most of us don't play golf, and so like what are we doing? And like they at least my bus, they drove us out and then said good luck, and then you had to play the course to get back to like a mile away back to the thing. All I remember, like I'm just it was so miserable, and like it was not fun at all. There was like everybody's confused and stuck in the anyway. To make a long story short, somehow we just walked back because I was like, this is stupid, not doing this. So the next year when the scavenger hunt came, it's like, I'm not doing this. And so
you're peace out.
I was peace out before we even it's like, and I think it was at that same retreat the next night we did winemaking, which was absolutely the dumbest thing. So if water and team building events don't mix, certainly alcohol and team building events don't work because first of all, I don't drink. I know you don't drink, and to have to sit there with a team of like 10 other people while everybody's mixing things, and you got to brand the wine, and it was just dumb. Wow, I'm really cranky today. It's like we're recording the episode about the federal government spending, but like just no with the alcohol, because like that event was so boring because like you had to create the things, and then you had to like brand your bottle and then present it, and then everybody then people take no, just dumb. But that wasn't even the worst thing, because just this last December, I was at a event that had a how to make cocktails session. And so it was a similar thing, except it was a mixologist came in and showed everybody, like there was 4 rounds of drinks that you made. And they did have non-alcoholic version, but I wisely was just hanging out doing my thing because I had done a presentation. And so they go through the rounds of drinks, and then the event ends and some people are starting to leave, and this one guy basically just passed out because he drank too much, and he was going to drive, and like everybody's like, no, you're not going to drive. And so somehow I'm sure he was on the verge of alcohol poisoning. So so somehow they got him in an Uber, or somebody drove his car home or something. I don't know how. I didn't want to know, but it was like, why are we doing alcohol events? I'm okay if you serve alcohol because you can, but like, anyway, I guess this guy was doing too much tasting and not enough making.
So Dr. E, with all of these train wreck stories, what do you recommend for leaders?
Well, I'm not even done. Oh, I haven't even.
Oh, we're just getting started. Okay.
No, I only have a couple more, but now that we get into the violence, we've gotten the alcohol and
so we've got boats, water, alcohol.
Exactly. Now we're getting into violence. So I don't know if you know what whirly ball is. I didn't know what it was, but apparently it's a big Midwest thing here in the US. And it's essentially, you get in bumper cars, and there's it's like bumper cars and a basketball court, and you have these basketballs, and you try to like shoot the ball through. I don't know if it's a hoop or a hole. Like anyway, somebody can describe in the comments. Anyway, so I mean, it's my first time doing it. I'm kind of like
I'm looking it up now because I've never heard of it either.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely not a West Coast thing. So, and one guy, I guess he was a lacrosse player. At one point, everybody's like trying to get the ball and do at one end of the court. He's at the other end of the court. He's just trying to get a basket, can't make a basket. He's like obsessive compulsive. And he's just there throwing the ball, trying to get it in because he's like a type A and is a former lacrosse player. Anyway, that wasn't the point, but it was just like, this brings out the worst in people. Anyway, at the time, my boss, she was driving, and we had just hired this guy, and so I'll call my former boss Christine, and we'll call the new employee Fred. And so at one point, and this is happening right in front of me. So Carrie comes over and gets kind of a little stuck against the side.
And I looked it up. It's called a whirly bug, is the vehicle that people drive.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah, exactly. So Kristen or Carrie or whatever K name that I came up with, she's sitting there kind of stuck on the side. And this guy, Fred, names have been changed. Fred just goes like full speed with a big run up and just rams her.
Yikes.
And you could tell that like that. I mean, that was one that kind of shot, like rattles your brain. Like that could have been concussion inducing. Like it's one thing if you're bumping cars, right? But this guy, and this guy had worked with her before. So, but like, why would you just,
So what did he do afterwards?
Oh, he laughed, said, "I'm sorry," and then zoomed on. And this happened like right in front of me. And I was just like, oh my God. So, so no whirly ball, like whirly balls out.
Then, it says online, it's a fast-paced, high-energy team sport that combines elements of lacrosse, basketball, and bumper cars, often described as the most fun you can have, going 4 miles per hour.
Wrong. That's false advertising. Anyway, so just on the violence track, this is a friend of mine. I'm not going to name her because I didn't check with her. If I checked with her, I could tell the story, but I didn't check with her if I could use her name. But anyway, she was in a self-defense class, and she's a little bit more our height. And I mean, she's
tall.
She's tall, and she's not petite. She's not overweight by any stretch, but just she's really fit. And but she's not, like she's not petite, like Lucy Liu or somebody like that. And so they're in a women's self-defense class, and I guess there was this small petite woman, and that they were sort of working in partners with. And I don't know, I don't have all the details, but the salient point is they were supposed to spar a little bit, and this little petite woman just hauls off and whacks my friend in the face, just punches her right in the mouth. And again, like there's no protection because it's supposed to be self-defense. And let's just say
I would have been so upset if somebody just knocked me in the face like that.
Oh yeah, like full on punched in the mouth, like you would see in the movies. Anyway, so I mean, like what are we doing? And then finally, my last thing, which is somebody told me about this because this was a Carney event in our London office, but essentially there's some, just to conclude the violence part of this, there's some place you can go and drive World War II tanks around and drive around and play tanks. And it just seems like just to this day, and maybe I'm being judgmental, but you like that just sends the wrong message. I mean, what are we doing again? Why are we going
So it's
out?
like a version of where we are in this area. We have the racetrack. People can
Yeah,
do corporate events where they get in the sports cars. So this is like a version of that, but driving tankers instead.
yeah, tanks like World War II tanks. And it's just, I mean, was it not just 50, 60 years ago we were in a world war and London was getting bombed? And maybe it's cathartic. I don't know. And maybe again, I'm just being judgmental, but no, I'm not doing cosplaying war. That's not appropriate. I mean, it's one thing in your personal life, but it's not appropriate in a business environment. And as I'm saying this, there's a whole nother one that I forgot about is like for many years, the London office, I think it was, did hunting trips. And I
Really? I'm a vegetarian.
no, I know I'm a vegan, and I actually think they were male only, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be misremembering that. But I mean, so all of that's to say is like team building events suck. And you win 100% of the team building events you don't participate in.
I
End
feel
of
like that's a Dr. E bumper sticker
I know exactly.
or a
Like
laptop sticker.
exactly. I need to get that. But I mean, seriously, like I don't know how long I've been talking, but it's like this is way too stressful to relive all this. So anyway, you were gonna ask me.
Yeah, so on the contrary, so for the listeners on the show who are leaders and want to build, more productive, cohesive teams, especially if they have a hybrid or global workforce, what do you recommend if maybe getting together and do these more structured things is not been the best experience for you?
Oh, okay. So I do have some, and I'm just going to kind of go down the list. Going to a baseball game because baseball, it's slow, it's somewhat boring. So there's time to, I'm not a huge baseball fan, but there's time to interact. You get stadium food. Most ballparks here in the US are beautiful, have great food. So especially Oracle Park in San Francisco is gorgeous. Hiking in Monterey. So we had a thing
Love
in,
hiking.
yeah, love hiking. Count me in every time. And so in doing it in Monterey, California, which is just south, couple hours of San Francisco, out on the coast, is gorgeous.
Which is Big Sur is close by. I go very regularly. Highly recommend. They have I forget what the road is. It's a really windy road and no cell service. It freaks me out. So
Yes,
you can't use any no internet, no phone calls, but there are some of the most incredible trails on that road.
yes, and you could even go north towards Mount Tamalpais, north of the city, and pretty much anywhere you go, there is beautiful hiking. I remember one time in Arizona, there was some big hike that everybody does, and that looked fun. I didn't do it, but yeah, museums are good. One time we went to the DC Air and Space Museum, that Washington DC, just outside of DC proper. The Air and Space Museum was gorgeous. There's many beautiful things at the mall in DC. If you're in the Bay Area, the Museum of Modern Art. I did a team event at the Exploratorium, which is right
Oh
there
yeah.
on the Embarcadero, which is it's mostly kids exploratory, but science museum, and it's very interactive, and there's a lot of fun things to do. I had a lot of fun pictures from that. And there's other museums around, and of course in any city. I took my team, the same team that went canoeing. We went to Angel Island in the middle of San
Oh yeah.
Francisco Bay. And the beauty of that, and I still come back to this, is we gave everybody the chance that, like, you have to take the ferry there, and that was a lot of fun. And then when you get there, you get the choice of renting mountain bikes and biking all over the island, hiking, which I chose to do. Or at the time they had Segways, the little scooter things. And actually it was evenly distributed because everybody could pick whatever they wanted. And we had 4 of us do hiking, 4 do bikes, and 4 do Segways. So that was good. Karaoke, of course. I am I'm not a good singer, so maybe that's not great for others. One time we did pasta making. That was kind of interesting. Not my biggest enjoyment, but that was interesting. Disneyland at night. That was as part of a bigger event where they and I've been in a couple of theme parks where they close them down at night and rent them out, and that's fun. Done that at Universal and at Disneyland. So highly recommend that. Like, I'm all in on that. I took everybody curling in Oakland, downtown Oakland. I took the team curling,
which has become more popular because it's an Olympic sport.
Absolutely. And it's like one of the longest winter Olympic sports. It's been around forever. It's the one with the brooms and the stones. I loved it. I'm sure everybody else was thinking this was stupid or like not for them, but I had an amazing time. So love curling. And they do a whole thing. And, it's, it's people fall down on the ice. And then perhaps my all-time favorite, and this gets a little bit overlapping with the museum, but in Alameda, just across the bay from San Francisco and Oakland, is the USS Hornet, which is a retired aircraft carrier, and you can rent it out. The admiral's room, you can rent it out for meetings. And so I did that. And then they followed up with a private tour and taking a tour of the ship. And as a military historian, that was a lot of fun, not only for me, but everybody enjoyed it quite a bit because it's also a museum. And so they have lots of space and flight artifacts as well. So, because the Hornet picked up the Apollo 11 crew, and so the Hornet brought them back. So there are other history things there. So those are 11 interesting things that have nothing to do with water, violence, or alcohol.
And for our listeners, drop us a note if you have a disaster team building story, either that you've experienced firsthand or through somebody you know, or if you have great team building ideas that you want to share with the group if people are looking, because it can be a little challenging to think of something. There's so many different people have hobbies and interests and different physical skill, capabilities. So trying to find something that really fits your group can be tough.
And do whatever you want. Just keep me out of it.
Alrighty, I think that is a wrap. We will be back next Wednesday.